Welcome to Longevity Industries presentation of the Destiny of Manufacturing podcast. I'm your host, Dean Phillips, and with me today, of course, I have Bob Willig, who is, of course, the chairman and the head guru over at SME. Bob, how are you doing today, sir?
Hey, Dean. Good afternoon. I'm doing great. Thank you very much for having me on your podcast.
Oh, it is great to have you. It is certainly my honor to have you here. Truth be known, Bob and I are in SME together and work together on the board. So I, want a full disclosure here. So right off the bat, though, Bob, tell me, what is the big takeaway for 5 years from now?
Wow, that's a loaded question. I hope we have a lot of time. So my background is all manufacturing, running and leading organizations focused on manufacturing in all sorts of different industries and for all sorts of different markets. And we've always struggled with the same topic and discussion, and I think it's relevant for today, tomorrow, and the future, and that is having an inspired, educated, and prosperous manufacturing community. That means both those who play in it, those producers that manufacture products for our market and our industry, but even more importantly, that they can find the right workers who are educated, excited, and want to be a part of the manufacturing organizations 5 years from now. I mean, it's easy for me to say it's a fantastic job. It's got a lot of job security. The benefits are great. It's safe, secure, with great headroom and growth for opportunity. But how do we reach people who are either in it today or coming up through the ranks of schooling and trade education that want to come and be a part of that? That's a big challenge, and that's what I see us having to get at to be successful here in 5 years.
Yeah. Do you think, do we need to communicate that passion to them? And how do we go about something like that?
I think the answer is yes. And I think both case studies are great, showing people, hey, these are folks that work in the manufacturing arena. They may be a first-line supervisor in a welding shop or a stamping shop, or they may be a production associate on the plant floor, or heck, they may be a researcher at Oak Ridge Labs down in Tennessee. They all have a passion, a love, and an understanding for manufacturing. And honestly, like my journey, it started when I was in high school, and I was the product of a vocational education program that ignited a spark in me to understand how to make things. And so we have to appeal to folks in all phases of life to really ignite their spark, to want to be a part of that and create this image of manufacturing that says it's not dark, it's not dirty, it's not smoky, and it's not dangerous. It's a great place to come to work every day.
Right. I agree. And I also am a product of a vocational high school, and it changed my life. I can attest to that. And I wish we had more of those types of programs. So talk a little bit about your background. How did you get involved not only at SME, but in manufacturing as a whole?
So in high school, as I mentioned earlier, I was the product of a vocational education program, got to learn how to run lathes and mills, take things apart, learned how to weld. And so I sparked an interest in me going forward that allowed me to go to university for a mechanical engineering program. I went to night school and worked during the day as an apprentice die maker and die designer. But what was really fascinating about my journey through college was SME got me into my first manufacturing organizations through chapters at the chapter at our university to take a tour through the Pontiac East truck plant here in Southeast Michigan. And as I walked through that plant, and I thought, how are they building this stuff? And suddenly it connected both what I was learning at university, what I had learned in high school, and what I was seeing for people who were happy doing their jobs, and they were actually making things that meant something. So my journey started there, and then I had a great opportunity to work for some international and global organizations over the years, from Gates Rubber Company, Gates Corporation, where I started as an apprentice. And 26 years later, I had gone all the way up to be the president of that organization. So run rubber factories, learned how to run a Banbury, and understood how to make belts and grind belts and sell them in the various markets that we're a part of. Fantastic journey. I look upon that as a great training ground for opportunity. But beyond that, I worked for another company called GKN. It's a British company, almost 270 years old now. And let that sink in for a minute. 270 years, they're older than we as a country are. I had an opportunity to work in a couple of different areas there. First in their powdered metal organization, where I was first exposed to both powdered metal and the understanding of the flexibility behind it and the prowess in the manufacturing area needed to, as we said, treat powder like gold, be very efficient and effective with what you did with it. But then after that, I had the opportunity to go work in their driveline business, where we were both a gear cutting, gear hobbing, high-point gear manufacturing organization, plus a forging, machining, and assembly operation. And both those runs through GKN exposed me to some broad opportunities to learn more about key manufacturing processes. But to be honest with you, the thing I took away from both Gates and GKN was the focus on manufacturing efficiency and improvement. And this is my background includes now a significant area of lean, where I learned around efficiency gains by being focused on minimization of waste, variation of reduction, and using Toyota production system disciplines to do that. And finally, after that, I moved on to run an electronics company, which was completely different. Once again, talking positive pressure environment, hair nets and booties type facilities, specifically around SMT or surface mount technology type activities to prepare and produce printed circuit boards. So I guarantee you most of those factories were cleaner than your own kitchen, and a completely different image of what manufacturing looks like. So all of that wrapped up, and the opportunity then to come to SME and give back after 35 years in this industry of manufacturing, to give back at a nonprofit level to the industry that helped create my career, is something that gets me out of bed with a step every day.
I think that's tremendous. And I think, communicating that message out to people is really critical, especially if you're a believer in like people like Simon Sinek, who, always start with why. Why do we do things?
I read his motivations every day. I'm very familiar with Simon. So great example.
He is. And I think sometimes we get so caught up in talking about what we do or how we do it that we lose the why we do it. And I think the passion and the people that we work in, when I talk about the company I work for, Link Systems, I talk about them and why do we do what we do? Well, from a safety standpoint, we do it because we want to save lives and we want to save fingers. Those are things that we accentuate in what we try to do, because understanding why this is important. So everything that you do has that outcome that changes the way that people look at you. And I think when you look at SME and you think about why we do what we do and the lives that we're impacting and changing, I think that's really critical for people to understand as an industry. And I think most organizations are working towards that. I think SME does an excellent job of working on it, especially in size. Can you tell us a little bit about and explain the Prime program to those that may not understand it as well?
Sure. Yeah. And thank you. And by the way, I love the word impact, because it really does describe, as a nonprofit who's 90 years old, what we come to work for every day. And that's to have an impact on people's lives, whether that's through helping develop that next generation of skilled workforce, or inspiring those who may be already in it or considering to be in it to stay in it, but also helping advance that technology forward and the impact that we have. So specifically for our Prime program, so Prime is an acronym that stands for Partnership Response in Manufacturing Education. And very specifically, Prime, similar to my story and I think yours, Prime focuses on high school development, meaning development of tangible skills, excuse me, at a high school level, giving kids the opportunity to learn trades in the manufacturing industry and manufacturing world. It crosses 7 different pathways, including those areas that would include additive manufacturing, would include welding, learning how to program and run a desktop mill, excuse me, and other areas, key specific areas of focus in the manufacturing industry. We've gone forward partnering with high schools and Board of Education around the United States to go into existing high schools, some of these high schools in economically challenged areas, and reinvigorate, reinstitute re-involve those students and those teachers in developing a vocational education program. SME comes forward through funding either through local manufacturers or funding obtained through government grants. So therefore, no cost to the high school. We come forward and set up equipment in those high schools. We come in with full curriculum and allow us to train the trainer, if you will, train the students and the teacher on the programs going forward. And we provide a full 3-year curriculum program for those kids that get into the prime program. We also bring forward certification exams at the end of that 3-year program. So these kids can graduate high school with a certificate, industry-recognized certificate in welding, or in CAD and CAM development, and specifically around 3D additive processes using a 3D printer to learn and learn on. So when they graduate high school, they have the opportunity to go straight into the manufacturing industry, if that's what their career aspirations are, and jump right into a well-paying, highly secure and motivating job. Or they can move into either a community college format or a 4-year program, but they're taking those tangible skills that they learned at a high school level with them. And right now we have 81 schools across the United States, but it is really taking off and starting to grow at a frankly significant rate, such that in a few years, I think 81 is going to be a number which is sizably bigger than that. It's one of the prouder programs that we have at SME, and one that, frankly, I think all SME members, associates, board members, Dean, and others should be very proud of, because it's having a significant impact on these kids' livelihoods going forward.
Yeah, and I think that's really something that we don't often see in a lot of these programs, is how much of an impact it makes on people and changes their lives for the better. I can tell you, did I go to college? Yes, but today I use more of the things that I learned in high school than I do in college. What I mean by that is that my vocational skills, I learned AC theory and understanding control circuits. Well, that's what I use in my day-to-day life today. Now, I learned electronics and a lot of other aspects when I got into college, but it's the AC theory that was not there really to any extent when I went to college, but I did learn that in high school. And that has made all the difference when I've gone everything from applying for jobs to understanding its impact in other areas of safety. How do I control a machine that we're controlling, and how do I make sure that it's safe? Understanding the control circuits. That's all AC theory with an impact from electronics, but it was more impactful for me to have understood that from vocational education. Did you find...
I completely agree. Yeah, I agree with you.
That's what I was going to ask is if you found the same thing in your experiences, that those foundational things and even problem solving, do you find that those kinds of things impacted how you look at your job now? Do you find that?
I think where it helped, the answer is yes. And I think where it helped was it gave you the confidence to jump right in. And the analogy I give is, you jump right in without fear of breaking something. You jump right in with fear of solving something, or with motivation to solve something. A quick example, I was just up in Flint, Michigan last week. We were launching a new prime school program. So the foundation some of our foundation folks were there from SME. The principal was there. Board members were there. Some of the local politicians were there. But most importantly, the kids were there. Mm-hmm. And I had 2 kids showing me about how they are programming a cobot, 2 cobots sitting together, and how they're getting them to talk to each other. They're experimenting. They're playing with it, but they don't realize just how much they're learning.
Right.
And I'm talking about feedback loops and control circuits. And these are kids in high school. That's how you get to them. That's how you motivate them. And you know what? They're not fearful. They're thrilled, excited, and they're jumping right in. And those are skills they're going to take with them a long way in life. So the earlier we can get to them and give them the permission to take chances and experiment with this stuff, the better off it can be.
Right. And I can tell you that I've been very fortunate to work with the Tooling U people on the other side of the educational aspect that SME provides, and have taught some some classes on site for them, and it's amazing because you see everything across the board. When you go into a manufacturing facility, you've got people that are brand new, don't even know how a piece of equipment works, all the way up to the experience level people, but they're experienced in a way that they know how to do it, but they can't convey that message in the words that they need to in order to be a good mentor to those younger people. And I think in a lot of cases, that aspect that Tooling U provides has really helped to, I guess, level the playing field when it comes to communication.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Tooling U SME is such a gem for SME. Having been in the family now for over 11 years and developing online and instructor-led training programs, but you can imagine how well they fit into a need during the pandemic when many people were virtual. And so instructor-led programs were important, but so were all the online classes that we had been developing over the years. And so
right.
It covers everything from fundamentals and basics to, Dean, we even have some folks now that are asking us to come in and help with onboarding and employee retention, things that you might not have historically thought of from a Tooling U SME standpoint coming forward, but in manufacturing organizations, putting online or instructor-led programs around onboarding as well as training and retention. Another area for Tooling U SME that's exciting for us is the development of VR and AR programs, which is just exploding today with opportunity. You can imagine you can teach an associate how to put a fire out without having fear of getting burned. And the technology is so good right now that we're doing it to teach lean, teaching folks what 5S means. And you can do that in virtual reality such that by the time they come out on the floor, they've already had a fair amount of experience in touching it, seeing it, tasting it, failing and succeeding with it. And so they're excited to come out and see, how does this work? And so, yes, Tooling U SME is well placed in that area, but actually, you're right, probably in ways that you might not have traditionally thought of in the past.
Right. And I think with the newer workforce that we have developing, their objectives are a little bit different than what we've seen in the past, and understanding that and being able to provide materials in a different way than we may have looked at before. I have spoken to you before about some of the opportunities for a new workforce. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the programs that you've worked with as far as people getting a second chance and how that works?
Absolutely. So I think many of you know, we have a national imperative today to address a current and pending increasing manufacturing worker shortage, especially in the United States. If you believe one study that's out there by Gardner, we'll need to fill 4 million jobs by 2030. About 1.5 million of those jobs will come through retirements as people need to retire. A good chunk of the rest of those will come either with reshoring, onshoring, or other activities in this area. And that's even net of efficiency gains used through automation and lean manufacturing and Industry 4.0. So we have to look at all opportunities to both get people excited to become part of manufacturing careers and keep them in it. So when we look at SME and what we bring to the market or the ecosystem, we have a great program in high school called Prime, which we already talked about. We have equally interesting programs through our foundation and scholarship monies that we award to kids graduating high school to go into both 2- and 4-year degree programs with a focus in manufacturing to get kids interested, help make that a little more palatable if they go off and do those kinds of things and become in the manufacturing focus going forward. But another area where we're really focused on today is both second chance citizens, those who were previously incarcerated, and working with them even in the prison systems, and once they are released, to give them tangible skills which would allow them to go right into the manufacturing arena and the manufacturing market to fill some of these open jobs. But then we're also working with folks who have some level of cognitive disability or challenge in giving them tangible skills that would allow them as well to jump in and be a part of a manufacturing ecosystem going forward. So our goal really is high school, college, and existing workers, either with skill opportunities to keep them relevant and allow them to progress, or those, as I mentioned, second chance citizens and cognitive folks, those with cognitive disabilities, such that we're touching all these key areas to try and address this national imperative of manufacturing shortages.
That's incredible. I know we're up against, I know you got to get running here, sir. I want to thank you very much for being on the show today. I'm proud to be now coming up on my 18th year as a member at SME, so I'm very proud of that. And I want to thank SME for all that they've done for manufacturing. Bob, how can people get in touch with SME?
First off, I'd like to also add my thank you, Dean, to you for your service and your commitment to SME, both as a member and a constituent, but also as a board member. Please hit our website, sme.org. That's the best place to come and look at opportunities to get involved, volunteer opportunities to be involved, become a member, come and join and see all the things that we bring to our membership organizations and what we could bring to you through our value proposition. Get engaged with our foundation and look at opportunities to get closer to those scholarship programs, either as a donor or as a potential recipient. All those things you'll find on sme.org. So please come have a look.
Absolutely. I know we're just past our Fab Tech show, so I would have recommended that, but it's just a little bit after that. And we have a lot of events for people to come and learn from.
We do. We have over nine industry-focused events next year alone. They're differing manufacturing technologies and capabilities, north, south, east, and west coast of the United States, depending upon where you are. Everything from fabrication and forming and welding to additive manufacturing to smart manufacturing to what we call NAMRE, North American Manufacturing Research Institute, which is high-level research focus. That will be up next year in Rutgers, up in New Jersey in June. So next year is going to be very busy. So please come and see us and be a part of those things.
All right. Thanks so much, Bob. I'll let you run. Thanks.
Very, very much appreciated. Again, thanks. Thank you.